Welcome to the Networking with Michelle podcast, the show dedicated on providing you the how-tos of marketing and networking strategies. Here we believe in the Jim Rohn quote, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Networking with Michelle. Today's guest is Tolu, actually a good friend of mine, and she is a CPA. You know, look, it's tax season. We are trying to we overpay the government all year, and most of us are trying to get this little refund check. So I wanted to bring an expert on that can help us when it comes to filing our taxes for the 2016 year as we're in 2017. So Tolu, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you are a CPA, certified public accountant. How did you get started in this industry as well as having your own business?
Well, I kind of actually got started because I left my first school, which is a biochemistry degree from upstate New York. And I was just one of those people, I kind of just felt lost. I have this degree. I felt like I wasn't prepared properly, so I decided, what am I going to do? What's my next step? And I basically just kind of strapped on some boots and got to work, and I discovered accounting. And of course, I'm a left-sided brain person, or a left brain person. So anything that that has rules, that has logic applied to it, really works great for me. So I kind of just fell into accounting, and I basically planned how I wanted my career to play out, which was I wanted to be a CPA. I wanted to have my own business, and I basically enrolled myself in an online accounting school, and I studied, and then I got a job, and then I studied for my CPA, and basically that was it. And then basically started another company while I was working for my boss. So I've kind of so it's been that journey up and down, and yeah. So I'm finally all on my own now. So I'm just excited to continue that journey.
Okay. Now, I know accounting can be somewhat broad. Is there a certain area that you specialize in?
Yes, actually, I specialize in real estate tax services for investors, people in the real estate industry, and that basically includes helping them to get their books together, helping them to prepare their taxes, and also helping them to really maximize their savings, to the extreme, basically to not ever have to pay taxes again. So we do a lot of business structuring, a lot of high level trust structuring, and I'm basically involved one on one in that. So
Okay.
yeah.
So we're recording this towards the end of January. So a lot of us employees are expecting their W-2s, filing for taxes in order for them to get the refund check. What is the best way to determine if you should go to TurboTax.com versus hiring a professional?
Well, I always say go to a professional, and here's why. And the the reason is I actually used TurboTax when I first got started. I was so cheap. I used TurboTax for like 3 years when I kind of started my own company. This is while I was working, and I kind of started my company, but I didn't know what to do with it then, but I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I used TurboTax, and I had to go back and fix a lot of things that I know as a CP, as somebody who was working in accounting then, or who was working with taxes then. I knew there were, how the IRS, how the tax code was structured, the things that are deductible, the things that are not. And I had to go back and fix about 3 or 5 things for myself, So, and this was when I also had a W-2, and I also had that business. So I was fixing things on the business side and on the employee side, So that's why I always say go and find a professional, because you don't know what you don't know. And TurboTax is not going to show you, the things that they don't have on their system, or what you're missing, and also the professional can also show you a lot of other things that you can also do to get better taxes. Okay, so how you can structure your business, how you can structure your life, that you can do. So yeah,
Okay.
that's why I would say go to a professional, and it's not because I'm biased. It's because I had to correct things. So
Now, and I feel like I got to apologize to everyone. Excuse my ignorance. Because lots of times you see these franchise tax shops set up versus, someone like you that is an actual individual, or maybe you have a small team, a small business owner.
Mhm.
Is there a difference, or is there something that we should look out for if we're going to a franchise shop versus, once again, a solo professional or a small business owner?
Well, if you're a small business owner, okay, this in this case, I'm actually pretty partial. Okay, but so you can look at it in two ways. I'm partial to CPAs, but I'm also approaching this in the kind of in the middle side, and so you have to take your personal side as well. So here's the three ways. I am a CPA, so clearly I want your business, right? So I want you to come to CPAs. I want you to come to me. But here's the thing with CPAs, we follow a lot of a lot more stricter guidelines that those shops don't follow. So that means that we're like if we how should I say this? So we're not allowed to prepare taxes that are wrong, basically. So we can't really fudge the rules all too much, right? Unless you know exactly what to do, unless you can prove it, which a lot of CPAs we definitely don't do that. Okay, we try to be very very safe, right? So you have to find a CPA who knows what they're doing, who is aggressive and knows how to back it up, and that's very very rare, right? So that's me. So that's me being in the middle part, and then so here's for you. So for you on the personal side, you want to look at it as so those people in the stores, they can also get you in trouble because if they're doing things, they're not going to be too concerned about your paperwork. CPAs are going to be so CPAs are also building into their systems stuff that will protect you, that will help you in case there's an audit and all that stuff, right? So that's what the but my experience with the shops is they don't really care. They try to say that they do, but they don't really care. I mean, I've just experienced too many of times where they just say, oh no, just get them in and blah blah blah, get them out. Meanwhile, I'm just, get me your paperwork. What's missing, I'll let you know. So my process kind of takes a while because there's a back and forth so that we can get your paperwork correct, right? But it's one of those things that you need to do it. You need to handle it when you have the opportunity. Otherwise, 2, 3 years down the road, when you finally get an audit, because IRS is not going to come at you as soon as you file your taxes, right? 2, 3 years down the road, you're not going to have that paperwork, right? So my system is built to protect you, but their system is built to just get the money. So that's kind of what you also want to look at. But of course, they might be able to get you a higher refund. I'm not even denying that, but they're also going to be more aggressive. They're not really going to be there when the IRS comes calling, right? And the process is not going to protect you. If you're missing paperwork, if you're missing mileage, they're not going to ask you for mileage, but so you're missing money. If you're missing mileage, and I know that you're a business owner, I will ask you for mileage. If I know that you are if I know that you drive so much for your work and you're a W-2, I will ask you for your mileage, right? So I don't just get every paperwork that I get and they just prepare something. I also look at your prior year's tax return to see the things that they prepare so I don't miss anything for you. And they don't do that. That they never ask you for last year's paperwork and last year's tax return. So it's just those little systems that CPAs have that really protect their clients, but also make sure that they're not missing something, because missing something from your paperwork can also trigger an audit, and you
Right.
just don't want that. Yeah.
Wow. That's some really good points. I like how you said the process is not going, or their process is not going to protect you. Um, because if you're going to something like that, it's like you're just another number, and they're trying to, go through so many people, increase their volume, which increases their revenue,
Right.
and they don't have your best interest at
Right.
heart.
And the other thing is CPAs can actually certain CPAs can also be cheaper.
Hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know that. So
Okay, cool. So there's a lot of things. There's once again, tax can be broad. We have employees, entrepreneurs, sidepreneurs. I want to talk about receipts for a little bit. You talked about tracking mileage. What are some of the best ways to do that? I mean, is it downloading an app? Is it what is the most efficient way for me, an employee slash business owner, if I was to work with you?
Okay, so I actually reserved this secret for my real estate clients who pay me a lot of money, but yes, I am willing to share it with your audience. So, there is this app called Wave Apps. It is absolutely free. It tracks your business and your personal, and it scans your receipt and automatically
Oh,
uploads
wow.
it. And it you can add your bank account to it, and you can reconcile it through there.
Wow.
And it has payroll. I mean, you have to pay for the payroll, but the accounting side is free, the personal side is free, the receipt side is free. So you can get a lot done out of this. And I definitely encourage everyone, whether you have a business or not, to go and sign up for it, because it will make your tax stuff so much easier. And there's also a storage that you can use to upload, paperwork that would just make, you know, your W-2s. You can upload your W-2s there. You can upload your bank statements there, and all those other things that you might need. IRS to to back up your taxes, but they're not necessarily stuff that is going to go into your accounting. So yeah, Wave Apps. It's WAVEAPPS.com. Yes. And you could also actually, for business owners, you could also accept payments through it and do invoicing and all that.
So it's similar, or it has the features similar to like a QuickBooks,
Hmm.
um,
Yes, but
Zero.
it's very, very focused on people who are getting started, people who just want the invoicing and the receipt management thing, because QuickBooks has a lot of features in it that, if you want a 360-degree view of your accounting, it will provide you that. If you have a system for your accounting, it will provide you that. But Wave Apps is just, hey, I'm getting started. My goal right now is to invoice. My goal right now is to keep my receipts. It is that, so and understand my what's going on in my bank account. It will do all of that.
All right. I got something to check out later. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, what are some tips that you can provide us? Maybe 3, 5 tips for anybody, regardless if they're an employee, entrepreneur, in the middle. What are some tips?
Okay, so the other tip, it's also about an app. So it's called Everlance. So it is a mileage tracking app, and it's completely also free. What it does is, you once you sign up for it, it will, of course, it's going to be on your phone, and every time you drive, it will, alert you to, well, it will save your drive. It will save your drive, and then you can go in every week or so and just, classify whether it's a business drive or it's a personal drive, right? And then it will, send you that report every day or every
Oh,
week,
okay.
and then you can save that for your taxes, right? Because the mileage, so deducting mileage versus your actual auto expenses is much, much better. It turns out to be at least twice as much for most people. Of course, we all have all those expenses, the parking, and the repairs and maintenance, but that doesn't really compare to your to your driving, right? To your mileage. So yeah, so I definitely encourage everyone to go and find Everlands. I'm sure it is available on iOS, but I'm not sure if it's available on Android. I'm sure it is. So it's called EVER, or spelled EVERLANCE, Everlands.
Okay.
Right.
I am. I plan
So,
on driving Uber for Super Bowl weekend. So, okay. I have an Android. Everlance is available on Android as well.
awesome.
And yeah, so I might need to be using that if I'm a new Uber driver.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so another tip is, okay, so one of the things that I've really been also working on, especially for my real estate clients, is to really help them understand how they can really take their tax deductions to the next level and reduce their taxes, right? Because taxes is basically based on what you earn and your deductions, right? So how do you maximize your deductions so that you can reduce what you earn, right? So, and one of the things that we're doing is really classifying. So one of the rules of deduction is if it's a business deduction, it's deductible. So how do you make your personal deductions, quote unquote, personal deductions, business deductions, which is, and the rule of that is if you are, for instance, for meals, you can deduct a meal if you are talking about business before the meal, during the meal, and after the meal, right? So people need to think about in the situations in which they are going into into meals and they're discussing business with people, but they're not, it's not necessarily like a client, or it's not necessarily somebody that you're trying to earn money from. Maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's your kid, right? But if it's but if you're discussing business, that is deductible. So think about what you can do with that. Things like your groceries can be deductible, because if you're if you're preparing your meals and you are discussing business with your family, that is deductible. So
Wow.
you
Yeah.
can actually put you can allocate some of that to your business expenses. So imagine how much you spend in groceries over the course of a year,
Right.
and how much of that you can save, right? Right. And so one of the other things is, like, for instance, if you are a small business person, right, you can, and you have kids, you can actually pay your kids to help you with your work, and then you can allocate about $4,000 to them, and that would, I mean, they would go on your return, on your tax return, but they wouldn't even have to pay taxes on that, because right, because it's the, with the deductions and
Yeah.
the yeah, so you're basically allocating $4,000 for free, and removing it from being taxable. So that's I believe that's 3 tips already.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, actually, I was talking to a colleague last night, so this is a question that just popped in my head. A lot of business owners, they either start out as a solo proprietor, or they get an LLC, right? When is a good time to consider transitioning from an LLC to an SCorp?
Okay, so I will give you 2 answers to that. The one is the official, and the one is the more sensible. Okay, so the official one is when you're making about $50,000 or so in sales, you should think about that. But the more sensible one is, and here's the reason, because of it just, with the taxes and maintenance, it just doesn't really pan out, financially. But now here's the thing: when you start making that kind of money, you're so, I mean, things are, you just won't have time to have to reset your entire business, right? So it's just better to do it as soon as you can, which is when your business starts. I mean, yeah, it might be costly, yes, but I mean, there are ways to get it for cheap. So I mean, which is basically you go online to the Secretary of State and pay $300. That
Right.
is the minimum that you need. Of course, if you go into a high, and that's just the bare bones that you need. So if you're going to hire someone, they're going to allocate their time into that, right? And so that's when it gets more costly. So I would say if you can afford $300, of course it's not going to be a priority, because marketing is priority. But if you can afford $300, I would say you need to sign up for your LLC as soon as possible. And the reason I say that is because, one, because an LLC is going to afford you, you're going to need a completely new EIN. You might need a completely new EIN, because if you have an LLC, you might want to be taxed as an S corporation or a partnership or that, right? So, but if you're under a sole proprietorship, then you're gonna have to get new bank accounts, because banks just need you to have a new bank account, right?
Right.
So you have to now change all your, spend time in your business, you change out all your paperwork and all that stuff, and then you need to talk to an accountant about what you're going to need, etc. When it's just, I just don't think that, that's something you need to, you need to take time out for your business to do, because it can get to be, it's one of those back office things that might be completely unnecessary. I mean, you might be, when you first sign up for, bare bones, you can over time reset it so that you get everything that you need to actually cover your entire liability, right? Which are going to be your stock certificate. You need a stock certificate for your liability to actually be valid, right? So it's just one of those things, and then you need an operating agreement. So those are the things that they're not going to be necessary immediately, because
Gotcha.
they really only need it in a court of law to prove that you have everything, all your ducks in a row. And then your operating agreement, either way, it's going to take time to build, because you need it to be specific for your company.
Gotcha.
So those are things that you can take your time to do. But the LLC, I think you should definitely get the LLC right away. So
Okay, cool. A couple of things. Kind of going back to the tax professional, what are some things that we should look for, or some qualities that we should look for when it comes to selecting a good CPA to file our taxes?
well, you need someone who has a system in place, and you need someone who is going to be aggressive, because I mean, I think you got into business to be a certain kind of person, right? To be successful. You didn't get in there just to work a second job that barely pays you, right? And that comes, and you can, I mean, so having your taxes reduced to a really high degree is key to doing that. And you need to be able to find someone who is aggressive, but they're smart about it, about being aggressive, right? So it's not just any kind of CPA, because one, those guys are going to charge you, but they're not going to really give you the best services. So that's kind of what you need. And you also need somebody who has a system in place that can support you. Not everyone has that, especially if they're solopreneurs and they're just starting out. Not everyone can support you. And you also need someone who is going to be keeping on you about your stuff. Who understands that there's a deadline, and that deadline must be followed. Okay, I never miss a deadline. I am on point with that deadline. If I know that you're going to miss a deadline, I immediately file an extension without you having to ask me. You need somebody like that, because they're kind of like your watchdog, because there's a reason you're not in taxes. There's just too many details to keep track of, and one of them is the deadline, right? So you need somebody who's going to be a watchdog like that. Someone ask you for who's going to ask you for paperwork that's missing. You need someone like that. And a lot of the CPAs that I've worked with, they just don't have that system. Their employees. This is what we did. We get the materials, we will ask them for stuff, they don't send it, and we basically just forget about them, because the process is not in place, and they're not gun ho about following through with the request. So yeah, that's basically what you should be looking for in a CPA. And of course, you need somebody you're gonna get along with, right? So
Absolutely. I like how you said watchdog. You need a watchdog that knows deadlines, because
yes.
that is definitely one of my gaps. Okay. Well, Tolu, I have known you for a few years, maybe what, 4 or 5 years.
Hmm.
And you've always been very professional, been open and available. So I definitely want to thank you for coming onto the show and helping us get this knowledge. That way we can have our financial affairs in order. So, two
Yeah,
questions.
absolutely.
How
Okay,
can
go ahead.
how can people get in touch with you?
Well, they can always email me at TOSINOWO at TOSINOWOCPA.com.
Okay. So we'll
Yeah.
definitely add that to the show notes. And how do you define success?
Well, oh, for me, I'm definitely on a success journey, okay? My success is really For me, I'm one of those people who define success as money. I am not joking with my money because clearly I am a tax person. I am not joking with my money. So yes, money is definitely a key part of that for me, but it's also about your contribution to the world and your relationships. And honestly, also I also discovered the latter two very late in life. So, and it's also because of I finally committed to my business that I, started to see how, the lack thereof of those things are playing into my success, my definition of money success, right? So I realized that those things are also very important because I can't stop thinking about them either. Even outside of the money success, I can't stop thinking about them. So I realized that for me, that is how those are the three things that I define success: what your relationships are, who your relationships are with, and what you're contributing to the community around you. Yeah.
I love it. Don't play with this woman's money, y'all.
I know, right?
Nah, I get it. I definitely get it. Well, everyone, I want to make sure please visit Tolu's website. I'm going to have that in the show notes. Remember, I believe in you. A personal connection leads to an influential network. Thank you for networking with Michelle.